Hi everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight, the horror movie podcast here on the Melfuzz Podcast Network. And yes, we're still on 2 episodes a week, so you've not even had to wait that long since the last one. And
It's like our episodes have twins that they don't know about.
I'm Peter, and this is Tim.
Hello.
And this episode's movie is going to
Fucking
be
sucks.
the movie we're talking about on this episode is Ring Zero, aka Ringu Zero, aka Ring Zero Birthday, aka Ring U Zero Birthday, aka the Ring Zero Birthday. I don't know. I've gave you every possible combination of every version of the title. There you go.
When has it no, honest question, when has like a prequel or like a zero episode or issue or whatever, when has that ever been a good thing?
Does Better Call Saul count?
I would say no because I would he's not like the main character in Breaking Bad. Like Breaking
Okay,
Bad doesn't. I feel like that's more an expansion of that
it's a
universe.
spin-off. It's a
Yeah,
spin-off. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. No,
exactly.
I can see that reasoning. I'm trying to think of another one. I mean,
I think like
Resident Evil Zero is definitely the weakest game out of the
yeah,
original games, but it's
I'll live with
certainly
that.
I like that more than most other prequels. If that
Yeah,
if that
I
makes sense.
I think I think maybe in like comic books and stuff it can work. Like going back and doing like origins sometimes can be interesting, but that's like a totally different format. I don't
Yeah, that's
think
completely
it
different.
doesn't work with movies, I feel
Yeah,
like.
the Hobbits suck. Obviously, the Star Wars prequels suck.
Yeah.
Um,
And then if we do okay, so the the one of the reasons why the first Ringu was so good is because of the mystery and
yeah, and a big part of that movie's plot is them trying to find out what happened and where this tape came from and who's
yeah.
on it and that's a big part of the movie. And we are going
I
to start spoiler free as we always do. That's it. I'm not sure how the spoiler free section is going to last because
yeah,
honestly, I don't know how much we can talk about this, but we can talk about some of it. We can give you. I mean, it's been pretty clear up to this point that we thought this was not good.
no. And
Um,
it's weird because like I'd watched these movies before, like probably sometime in college or something.
yeah,
I
I
feel like
watched all three of them because I bought a DVD box set like when I was in high school and I
yeah.
watched them. So it was at least 10 years ago. I watched the
And
three of them.
and I feel like if you would have before we rewatched them, if you would have asked me if I was a fan of these movies, I probably would have been like, yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
And then like rewatching them is like, ooh,
No, the
no,
first
no,
one's
no, no.
good.
Yeah, no, I'll stand by the
Yeah, and
first one.
obviously, if you've been obviously follow this show, a few months ago we did the first movie, we did the second movie,
Yeah,
and we meant to do the zero, the third one, the zero movie, sooner than this, but we kept having new movies to talk about, and we always
yeah,
prioritize new movies that are topical and people are actually, currently interested in. But one of the good things about doing 2 episodes a week right now is that we can, devote some time for some of these, this backlog of films that we've got lined
yeah.
up, and
Also, it might not seem like it, but I don't think we're really masochists. Like we usually don't like to go out of our way and watch bad movies. We prefer to watch good
that's
movies.
true. But of course,
But
the reason that we are we're working our way through the Ring movies, and we're going to be doing the Grudge movies at some point,
yeah,
is because there is both a new Japanese movie, which is Sadako versus Kayuku, which is
can't wait.
or the ghosts from the Ring and the Grudge, if you don't know, and then there's also going to be a new American Ring film later this year. So,
Mhm.
as we like to do, because like we did The Conjuring just before The Conjuring 2, if we've not done the previous movie in the franchise before the new one comes out, we like to try and catch up and make sure they're all done in the show before we do the new one.
It's
And
like once we find out that there's going to be a movie in the present, we're like, oh, we better do the movie from the past.
notice how I avoided saying the catchphrase again at the start of this one. But yeah, so Ring Zero, which I will now refer to it as. So the plot, which we can't even get into a lot of it because a lot of it's spoilers, but it's set in
Yeah,
the past. It's set 30 years ago. Well, 30 years from when the movie was made. I mean, obviously now it's like 45 years ago or whatever it is. And we see Sadako when she's alive,
Hmm.
and she's part of a theatre group, and we have kind of a budding romance. We have kind of like a
Yeah.
Carrie thing going on where like people
It's,
just think she's weird, and then it all builds.
it's-
And
everything is just so awful. It's so who wants to see their villains in high school? Like,
is she even in high school? This is one of my problems. Like, you know what? Spoiler warning from now, because I don't even
okay,
know how to talk about this without
yeah, all right.
tearing it proper to shreds. So full spoilers warning in general, but we've said it's bad, so you honestly just stick around and hear the insanity. Honest, but you've been warned in case you care, right? By the way, so the first thing I want to complain about actually is the
Okay.
opening,
Hmm.
because the opening of the movie is actually set in present day, with
Hmm.
some random girl on some steps on her phone talking to someone about a dream she had about the video, even though she's not watched it. And they mention the video as well, but she mentions a dream where she sees the well,
Hmm.
and then we cut to 30 years previously. We never go back to present day and find out who the fuck she is.
You know, it's really funny you mentioned that because I had completely forgotten about that until you mentioned it right now.
Exactly.
But yeah,
Tim, do you know what I did as soon as I finished this movie? I went
what's
back to the start and watched the first 5 minutes again to make sure that I wasn't remembering things like, wrong. Like, and I'm like, what the fuck? This is never brought up again. Who is this character? Why did we even need this in this movie? Even if the rest of the movie was good, right?
yeah.
Why does this part exist?
Like, I don't know if they're just trying to set up like who Sadako and the curse and stuff is, but it's like if you're watching the third of a movie series, you probably already know.
But here's my thing. I thought, like, regardless of the quality of the rest of the movie, I thought it's going to be a bookend. We're going to go back there at the end,
Yeah.
and it's going to wrap up like whatever her little plot is. But it just never went back.
It was bizarre.
It's bloody weird. I don't get it. Oh, right. So it says 30 years earlier, right, which puts us now. If I remember correctly, in the first movie, they say that she was in the well for 40 years, right? But it's when we get to that
Something
movie,
like that, yeah.
right? So this puts it 10 years into that, which is wrong. So maybe I'm just misremembering it. Maybe it was 30 years.
Maybe.
Maybe it was.
I don't know.
But yeah. So 30 years ago, and we're introduced to this journalist character who is talking to a school teacher, trying to find out information about Sadako. Right?
Now, all right. Well, so, hold on. Maybe we're jumping around here, but I just want to bring this up. So, like, when you watch the other movies,
Yes.
and you got a sense of like what like Sadako was like when she was alive, like I don't know about you, but I always assumed that she was like this weird reclusive child who, didn't go around like other kids and like lived in like a weird creepy barn or something. But like in this she's like normal looking. She joins a theater troupe. She might just be out of high school or in high school
Well, this is
or
actually
something.
part of my problem with the whole setup of the. Well, there's two problems here that you've just sort of
Yeah.
brought up for me. One
Okay.
is, where the fuck is she when she's not at this theatre group? Is she living
Mhm.
on her own? Because she's not living with her dad. Because we'll get to her dad later, but you never see her
Yeah.
dad until near the end of the movie when we go and see where he is. Like,
Mhm.
is she living on her own? Does she have a job? Does she go to school? How's she paying for the wherever she lives? Like, it just. Don't get me wrong. In a lot of movies, this doesn't matter. You just take it for granted they have a job or something. But because
Yeah.
of her past and because of who she is and her weirdness, like I'm really like I don't understand how she's functioning in society. And then
Uh-huh.
the other part is that you've sort of like hinted at there is like all of this plot, all of this plot,
Mhm.
all of this theatre plot, all of the potential romance that happens, the Carrie-esque plot that goes on throughout the movie,
Yeah.
all of it just feels like, oh, we had to come up with something that filled 80% of the movie so
Right.
that we could have the scene where he puts her in the well at the end. And that, because that's really all
Yeah.
this movie is, is him putting her in the well.
Yeah, like that felt like the only thing that really connected it to the other movies. Like, I don't know. Like,
Well,
I guess
the other things that connected to the movies is that they did establish in the first movie that her mother was a psychic and could do
right. Yeah.
stuff, and there was a
Like
demonstration that went bad and someone died, and
she
then
killed someone.
and
Yeah.
that's when they all sort of turned on her, and that led to her suicide, right? So
Hmm.
that stuff is kind of there, right? And that's
Yeah.
fair enough, right?
Hmm.
Fair enough.
I mean, I feel like you probably know what my big complaint about this is going to be. Usually, when I don't like something, it's usually because it's boring, and this was like super
This is
mega
quite boring.
fucking boring.
Well, it was because it wasn't until very late on. It wasn't really a horror movie. It
Yeah,
was a. I mean, again, I don't think they're actually teenagers, but it was essentially a teen drama. Uh,
yeah, and it's not like there's a few weird things that happen, but there really isn't
no,
that
I mean,
much. Like
like, well,
if they're gonna do this thing, but then have like weird ghosts like coming out all over the place, sure, maybe, but
well, hold on, let's tackle it in order. Let's try and do it in order because
okay.
I feel like to try and piece together this madness, we have to do it. We can't just jump around, right? So
Jump around.
we're introduced to this reporter character who's trying to investigate who Sadako is, and we hear this story about how she could tell everyone was going to drown, and which, by the way, right? So we find out that when she was in school, like when she was in elementary school, primary school, whatever England calls it, because they don't do they call it primary school? I think they do, right? 'Cause I think that's a UK wide thing, right? But like, so when she's about that age, the swimming class or whatever go to the beach to swim
Mhm.
in the ocean, and Sadako has like this, I guess, vision or prophecy, Final Destination style. Everyone's going to die. Don't go in the water, right? Now, I don't really have a problem with that per se. If that's part of a power set, that's part of a power set. Whatever.
Mhm.
How do 14 kids like? I get if they're on a boat, like
Yeah.
out far in the water, and the boat sinks or something. That's how 14 people drown together,
Mhm.
right? But if
Yeah.
you're just going from like the shore, like I get that some people get caught by the current and get dragged, but 14 of them at the same time?
Well, I forget which movie it was, but didn't one of the movies hint at something about um Sadako's like real father being some type of sea demon or something?
Oh,
And
I don't.
if it wasn't in the movies, it might have been in the books, and maybe like when I read the Wikipedia on them.
So, because at least for me, I don't think they actually bring up in this movie how they drowned.
Yeah,
They just say they drowned, which is why I'm going on
yeah,
this rant. If they said, oh, there was like, I don't know, a tsunami or something, like, I don't know, but
yeah.
like there was a thing that happened that they explained. But in this movie, it literally just sounds like 14 kids went swimming in the ocean and all of them drowned.
That day, 14 bodies went out into the water. No one
That's
came
what it
back.
sounded like. Maybe my subtitles were missing like a line of dialogue or something that said, there was this tragedy, tsunami, or there was, I don't know,
Yeah,
if it's some sort of like Aquaman style, like controller of water that killed them
yeah,
all, then fair enough. Because they do tease that, oh, her real biological father is not this guy, and they mention that, and okay,
mm,
but whatever. So this
yeah,
reporter apparently is trying to look for her and investigate her because her boyfriend was one of the ones who died because he was at the demonstration where the mother, did stuff. And
yeah.
this apparently, everyone who was there has died in time. Almost like they watched the videotape. And by the way, for a movie called Ring Zero, it didn't actually explain what the videotape's got to do with anything.
No, not at all.
Like, there's no reason for this to be connected to a videotape. I don't get it. It's weird.
Yeah, like if they at least like explained the videotape and went like one by one, like each image on it, like I don't think necessarily would have been a good movie, but at least I could have understood the point,
Well,
you know?
yeah, like it just feels like you've made a prequel, but you don't actually explore any of the questions you might have from the first movie. You just
Yeah.
create all these new things, and like what is the why is the videotape important? Why is it a videotape that's haunted and is doing this and spreading this evil? Like,
Yeah.
what is the importance of that? And it wasn't important in the first movie that much because it was just kind of a mystery, and that's okay. But in this one, like they do all this backstory, and then there's just no videotape related to anything, or camera related to anything. It just, uh,
It's
it,
bollocks.
you know what? Do you know what might have made sense actually? What if instead of theatre, it was like a TV show thing? And that's why
Okay.
it was video related, is because she was trying to be like an actress in TV or in a
Yeah.
movie. Like that would have made a bit more sense at least.
Actually, yeah. Um
But it
That
wasn't. It was, it was live theatre.
it is such a weird thing
Actually, can I
to
make
me.
one general complaint about the movie as a whole?
Okay.
Maybe this is just me. It
Yeah.
didn't feel like it was set in a different time period as the first movie. It still felt
No.
like it was just present day.
Well, you know what? Like, so when was this supposed to be? Like in the 60s or 70s or something?
30 years previously, it was made in 2000, so 1970, I guess,
Okay.
or around
No,
that
because
time.
like, because I don't know. Like, it always feels like that like first videotape that you watch uh in the first Ring movie. It feels like so old fashioned. Like
Yeah, it looks like almost not quite feudal Japan, but it looks
like
old timey.
40s,
Yeah,
50s, maybe even, but yeah, like something like really early on, and just to have her in like, you know, a contemporary setting, even as, far back as like the 70s, it just it feels really odd. I don't know, it
it
just
does
feels like
feel weird.
something doesn't like line up.
Yeah, nah, that's just some serious like blurring of the lines in terms of continuity here.
Yeah.
So that's the reporter woman's looking for her, and that's kind of a subplot. It feels like she's going to be the main character because we don't even meet Sadako until like another 5 minutes. But then when we do meet her, she's in a theatre group. We know that she's got a doctor that she talks to, who's like trying to help her to calm down or whatever. And
Yeah.
uh, but basically, the gist of the movie is that people think she's weird and think weird things happen. The lead actress who's in the play dies, and they sort of like tie it back to when her mother did that weird thing at the presentation, because there's this weird sound that was recorded that
Yeah.
shows that it was Sadako. Even if she wasn't consciously doing it, she was like killing her telepathically.
Mhm.
Uh, which I guess is how she actually kills people when she comes out of the tape.
Yeah, she gives him a heart attack.
That's what they're
Yeah.
implying. Yeah, so it's like a telepathic just death.
Yeah.
Um, and then other weird things start happening, and it's basically Carrie is essentially what it is. But she has this weird romance with this
Is
the sound
like
mixer, the sound producer guy,
yeah.
and they have these weird moments where he's like sticking up for her, and no one else wants to,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of the first half of this movie is this like potential romance. And
See, I feel like at the bare minimum, like if you are gonna have her in like in this group or whatever, like at least like show that like she's weird and crazy and like is always like I would have expected her to be like hunched over and like with long hair in front of her face and not really like talking to someone and
no, she's just she's quiet. That's all she is.
yeah, but
And
like
people,
people still think she's like a freak.
yeah, like they just say, oh, ever since she showed up, people's attitudes have changed. Like they imply that maybe the director's like infatuated with her, like unnaturally,
Yeah.
like she's done something to him telepathically or whatever, and that this all comes up, and as this is all happening, we get a little bit of the researcher or the reporter looking for things and like finding tidbits of info here, and it just and then eventually the director like attacks her because
Was it was this
reasons.
before or after the main like the lead actress dies?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about when I said
Oh,
the sound being recorded, and
oh, oh, okay,
and
okay.
she becomes the lead. That's the important point there, is
Yeah.
that she becomes the new lead actress in the play, who doesn't seem like she's acting, because we see several shots and scenes of them like actually acting out the play and rehearsals
Yeah.
and stuff, and it feels like she's not even acting. She's just being the same
No.
quiet, mopey person.
And I don't think she wants to be there.
I know it
Like
feels like that, but yet she seems to like it. It's weird. I don't know, but eventually, somehow the director of the play figures out that she is telepathic and does all this shit, and is like, I can make you a star, but you're not planning to kill me. And it all leads to a bit of a confrontation where the sound producer guy like runs in because he's got feelings for her, and they've had some awkward moments where they've almost had tea together, but she ran out and acted weird. And that's the excitement of this movie, guys. Uh,
Yeah.
and they get knocked over. Like he tackles him and they go over the side or whatever, and the director dies, and the sound producer guy gets a really big cut in his head or whatever, and she takes him to her doctor friend, and the cut's healed. So now we find out, we get a revelation, because once this has happened, she gets the idea, wait, have I got a power here? And she goes out into the hospital, finds an old guy in a wheelchair, and like touches his legs really weird and creepily for like a minute, and then the guy stands up out of the wheelchair, cured. So they reveal that Sadako has healing powers. She can heal people.
Yeah, I
That's a
don't.
thing.
What the?
Do you know what? I can almost see the makings of a good movie here, and I'll tell you why. Right? I'll tell you.
Okay.
At least I can see the makings of a good character arc. Right? So she has the power to both kill people at will and heal them at will.
Yeah.
So she could be a force for good per se, but maybe the movie's trying to say that, oh, because everyone was like skeptical and cynical and scared of her, they drove her to the dark side.
Yeah.
You know, like I could see that being a potentially good story. It's not here. Don't get me wrong. It's not. But
Yeah.
and this is before the things even get really weird. Because so one of the other actresses or whatever or technicians in the play decides to play a recording of something. I think it's the director or I don't know. It's something that means something to Sadako. I didn't really quite get what the recording was of because it was just the
Yeah. I
same
don't
word
know.
over and over again.
Yeah.
But
I don't remember.
basically, it's almost like the scene in Carrie where they dump the pig's blood on her head, and this is during a live performance of the play. And shocker, shit. Like you think this person can mysteriously make people die without touching them, and your plan is to piss her off. Like,
Wait, was this before or after they tried photographing her?
oh yeah, that
Yeah.
already happened. Basically, the whole thing from the first movie
Was
was
it like,
if you get
that
your
was
photo
like,
taken
yeah.
after you watch the video, it's all blurred and like smudged, and it tells you you're cursed and you're going to die. Which apparently this just happens in general if she's decided she wants you dead.
But it's like so funny because like they're taking these photographs of her like with these like big like flash bulb cameras and she obviously does not like it. Like she has her hands in front of her face and she's like stop and like they're still like taking her picture like the it was so weird and it was just like reminded me so much of like King Kong just like I wanted someone to be like no stop you're going to send her in a rage.
Oh dear. So that was a thing.
Yeah.
That was a thing, and the doctor guy who's been kind of like not on her side but like knows how dangerous she is, and like he runs up on stage and tries to like help, and she kills him, and then all the actors who just
Oh,
as
this is my favorite part.
the actors all chase her to a dressing room in the back and bludgeon her to death as a group. Like all like 8 of them are all just hitting her with things, and then it cuts to her.
Fuck.
It cuts to her, and there's like a little bit of blood in her nose. There's like nothing. Like she doesn't even look like she's been touched. She looks like she's just sleeping like a baby. It's so
Yeah.
weird. Like they haven't even attempted to make it look like she was actually beaten up. If you get bludgeoned with all these like blunt weapons repeatedly,
Yeah, they have like heavy objects in their
yeah,
hand.
you would be bruised and bloody, and
Yeah.
you would look like a train wreck.
You'd be like a pulp. This
Yeah.
human pulp.
And they do this, by the way, while her potential boyfriend is like being held back by other actors and stuff. He's trying to help her, and they're all just beating her to death.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Like who would act like this? Like at the very least, if you think someone is like a danger or a threat, maybe you would like hold them down and call the police or something. Like who in their right mind is like, let's just fucking kill her?
And they're out for blood. Like they all decide really early on, like they don't like her, and then when this happens, they immediately just go to kill her. It's just so like the characters just don't make any sense. And this is
Well,
where
that just goes to show you how much of a tight knit group they are. They really,
and this
they
is
really
where
jive.
at this point the reporters like found her at the play and all that, and she's there to watch it, and she's been trying to like ask people questions and all that. And this is where she confirms something that was hinted at earlier in the movie. Because earlier in the movie, the teacher she was talking to, I think it was the teacher that she was talking to, comes back and tells a story about how she went to visit the family one day and seen her mother, and you know there's a shot of her mother like doing her hair in the mirror, like the videotape, but it's just there to make you remind you of that. It's not. It doesn't actually like add to anything. It just here's some imagery you remember from the first movie. Remember that good movie? Yeah, bet you wish you were watching that, you fuckers. But she tells this weird story about how she sees like a second Sadako, and I just kind of thought I don't know what they're saying here. I was like, that's weird. Like what are they actually getting at here? But then in this scene, after they've beat the shit out of her, like the reporters like look at your photos, like we're all blurred, we're all going to die. We have to kill the second Sadako. Wait, what? Do you want to say that again? Kill the second Sadako. There's a second one. As in, there's two of these bitches. What? What?
Yeah. But like that at no point was even like the slightest hint that like this was happening or going on. It's just like, oh yeah, there's this now.
This would be ridiculous no matter what, however they set this up in this movie. But
Yeah.
like, the worst part is you go back and watch that first movie. All this movie does, is convolute everything about the backstory and make none of it work. Like that's what this movie does. And so they go on a hunt. They basically take the corpse of this teenage Sadako and go to find the father, who's there.
This is like,
And he opens the door and he's like, "You've come to kill Sadako." And I don't know why I'm doing an accent, because obviously it was in Japanese with subtitles. But you know, I'm doing my old man Japanese voice. And
I just
like,
think it needs to be pointed out that like this like theater group or whatever, they're like full on like Frankenstein villagers, like just like
yeah.
running through the woods. Like they might as well have like pitchforks and torches.
Yeah, like
it's
we have to go and kill the other one, or we're
Yeah.
going to die because of the blurry photos. I don't know. And so he just lets them in. Like it's like he knows why they're there, and he's like, "All right, I need to come in." And he sits and has tea with them, and he explains things. He gives them backstory and plot. And do you want to know the explanation for Sadako being two of them? One day, she split in two.
wow.
And he says one of them took after her mother, and the other one must have taken after whatever her father was like. So presumably the one that we've not been seeing is the creepy one that takes after the demon father. If we're assuming the father's like, you know, otherworldly and, you know, sea demon and all that. And he says he gave drugs to stop the other one from growing up. What? So he gave drugs to the creepy one to stop her from growing up, whilst the regular one went off to the city and joined an acting troupe. Listen to this plot. Fucking listen to it. And that's all it is. And it's like at no point do we really get a sense that she's just in the house. Like it doesn't even like imply where she is or anything like that. And then we're back in the this is all going on. It like cuts back to the truck where the body of the other one is, and like they realise that she's waking up. And by the way, the potential boyfriend character is here the whole time as well. Like he came along with them. I think he's just like grieving with the corpse. Like he's not even. I don't know why he's there. But it's not like they've kidnapped him. Like he's there of his own free will. Yeah. And it becomes apparent that the one they killed is actually coming back to life. Like her hands start to move, and then like creepy shit starts happening in the house, and the dad's like, "Oh, you brought her here? She's here. The other one's here." Like it was dangerous for them to both be in the same place. And then like they all run out of the house with their weapons and try and hunt her in the forest, you know, in the daylight. And the potential boyfriend's running after her, trying to find her, and he finds her at the edge of a cliff. The water's below. She's standing there. And then the little hands of presumably the younger evil Sadako like come round her. And we get a lot of weird like close-ups of eyes, and like it cuts back and forth between them. And then she's standing there as tall as she was, but apparently they've merged because now she's like creepy Sadako from the tape. She's long haired over the face, and she starts like, you know, doing the movements with her shoulders and her like joints where her arms are looking weird, and like, and then you hear. Do you hear a scream? I can't remember, but it's implied the boyfriend's like dead. Like she's just instantly killed him. And then we get in broad daylight, evil Sadako like quickly moving between trees, and all these people who were trying to kill her like just dropping dead one by one, until eventually the reporter and the one last actor who's like left, like commits suicide to not be killed by her.
Yeah.
And and then the dad finds her, and she's back to normal. And she's just fine. and he gives her a drug to. He says to calm her down, but he's actually trying to kill her. She starts to feel all pain and all that, but she's still strong enough. Well, I mean, we've already established she can come back to fucking life, so of course the drug's not going to help that well. And he chases her out into the backyard, and there's the well that we all know, and he bashes her on the head with a cleaver a couple of times and throws her in. And there's your setup for the ring. And that's the last third of this movie. It's just I don't even know how to describe it. I just did, but
you would think, like, from that description that, like, at the very least, this movie would be so crazy that it'd be interesting and entertaining, but it's not. It's actually really boring.
like I would maybe say the last 20 minutes is kind of in that category where it gets so crazy it starts to be kind of entertaining. Like I'm like, what the fuck is happening? There's two of them. They just split apart. Like it gets so fucking stupid that you do kind of get to that point. But the movie's an hour 40, and the first hour 15 say, really boring, like unbelievably boring.
If the whole movie was like that last whatever 15-20 minutes, like, it still wouldn't be a good movie, but at least it'd be like, wow, this is so crazy. You kind of have to see it.
Well, the whole Sadako versus I keep forgetting the name of the one from The Grudge. Kayako?
Sounds right.
Yeah. But like we're not I'm not expecting that to be a good movie. I'm expecting it to be batshit insane.
Right.
But I'm going to enjoy batshit insane as long as it's entertaining in a batshit insane kind of way.
Exactly.
This was boring and just kind of dull, and it just fucked with the backstory. It added all these extra things that make no sense just so there's plot to have. It's kind of one of these things where it's a forced prequel where there doesn't need to be one, so it just makes all this extra shit up.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of what made the first one so good.
Absolutely. Do you know what it is? It's a Carrie knockoff with then like weird ring tie-ins at the end.
Yeah. And it does the like like I don't understand why, like, when you watch horror movies, it's like these bad guys or these villains, monsters or whatever, like, they can just exist. You don't have to explain everything. It's it's like fucking like one of your favorite movies, when they go and explain Michael Myers, like, in the Rob Zombie Halloween. It's like, this is not necessary in the slightest.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding of why they worked in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong, we know a lot about the backstory from the first movie, but that's kind of part of the point of that movie, is that they go and investigate it, and there is like something there to it, and it implies more than you actually find out. But there's still a lot of mystery. There's still a lot of blanks left intentionally to make it creepy, because that's what makes it creepy. Whereas in this one, it just kind of feels like, alright, so she already had kind of superpowers, and it was basically like Carrie, and that's it. There's like no creepiness to any of it.
Yeah. It's like, the last thing you want to hear is like, if someone was like, hey, we're gonna, like, do a movie about Sadako before, like, she falls in the well, and they're like, okay, well, all right, maybe that could be cool. Like, is she like a creepy person going around killing people? Like,
it's actually Tim. Do you know what the exact comparison is?
What's that?
It's Star Wars prequel. It's Phantom Menace. You took Darth Vader and you turned him into an annoying little kid that, like, is just this little happy kid. It completely demystifies your villain. And as much as Darth Vader, of course, is more of a character in that he has a redemption thing at the end of the movies and all that.
Yeah.
Sorry if I spoiled Return of the Jedi for you, but it's 2016 and it's Return of the Jedi. But like, you take your creepy villain and you take all of her mystery away. You take all of her, because it's kind of like when you play horror games. Even though you like read notes about backstory, it still kind of get this weird detachment, because it's like, we often say show things and don't tell them, but this is kind of one of the sort of weird flips of that, where in horror stories, if you like hear parts of a story of a backstory and it gives you something, but like there's mystery left to it, it actually makes it more intriguing.
Yeah,
because your mind starts to fill in more blanks, and there's something much creepier about implying that she maybe had powers, and maybe her father was like a demon of the sea.
Yeah.
than it is to just actually flat out say that. Like, if you flat out just prove it and say, oh no, she had powers and her father was a demon of the sea,
Yeah.
it's not as interesting. If you actually just show that, it's not as interesting, especially in a horror movie where you
Yeah.
want the creepiness and you want the mystery, and it just
Mm.
it does not get it. Don't get me
She
wrong, I
wasn't
still
a
like
very
it.
good actress.
I like it more than Rob Zombie's Halloween. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a great comparison, but I'll give it that.
No. But no, yeah, it's just that thing where, yeah, it's, Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's Halloween, or Anakin Skywalker and, Phantom Menace. It's exactly like you said, just you're taking all of the, mystique out of these characters. And, not every villain has to be like a force of nature, but I think like fundamentally, like, you know, if you establish that a character is, more of a force of nature than like a specific, you know, person or something, you can't really go back and be like, well, now we're gonna make him a person. It
Yeah,
just feels weird.
Actually, to sum it up nicely, in the first movie, she's not only a force of nature, she's like a fable. She's like this
Yeah,
spooky story from the past that, yeah, there's a real world effect, but she's this old story, Whereas in this movie, it's like, no, this is all the details, like a textbook,
yeah,
It just,
yeah.
and it doesn't even sync up nicely either, which is even more annoying. It's just like,
No,
if you're going to ruin the character like this, at least make it work on a logistic level.
yeah.
But nah, that Ring Zero. I don't even, because 2 was pretty crap as well. Like I don't,
Yeah.
I don't even know what one I could say is better or worse, to be honest.
Uh, I mean,
They're both just kind of jumbled messes, and
yeah.
I just
I feel like if I had to give another one a shot, I'd probably watch 2 again. But if I could like pick and choose, like maybe I would just rewatch the last 20 minutes of Zero. Like if I had to go with anything.
when it actually turns into a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that. So we will do the American ones in the near future. Um, so you get that to look forward to. We'll probably won't do both of those in the first one episode. Actually, we'll do Ring 1 and 2 in one go, as a treat in the near future before we go back to Japan for starting the Grudge movies. So let's do some ratings then, and oh god, what can we rate out of 10 this week?
The zeros.
There was fucking nothing in this.
Uh, Twins, Wells, acting troops.
Okay, how many forgotten prologues out of 10? I still can't get over they never went back to present day. Like, who the fuck was that girl?
Yeah.
What was that relevant to any of that movie? God damn it. Yeah.
That's strange.
How many forgotten prologues out of 10, Tim?
I'm debating between like a 3, 3.5. Let's go for 3, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I'm tempted to swing it a little. Like, I'm tempted to go with a 4.
Mhm.
And the reason why I'm maybe not being quite as harsh is because it is at least, like, like, in terms of filmmaking, it's fine. Like, it's competently made for the most part.
Yeah.
Some of the shots of her going past the trees towards the end were kind of cool, I guess. Although being in broad daylight was a bit weird.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like they were trying to do some interesting things with the mythology. I don't know.
Mhm.
I think mostly it's a mediocre movie that also happens to, like, see if this was not connected to The Ring. See if this was just the story as it was, and this was the ending, and
Yeah.
I would probably just say it's really mediocre, but because it ruins like the backstory and the character a little bit,
Yeah.
so it'd probably got like a 4.5, 5. As it is, you know what? I'm actually tucking myself down now that I'm not stating how I feel about it. I'm actually aiming about, yeah. I'll go with 3.5.
Yeah,
See,
that sounds fair. Like, I think it easily could have been, for me, I easily could have gone up to like 4 or 5 territory if it just wasn't so boring. Because really, that was my biggest problem with it. Is I
yeah,
just, I found it hard to pay attention. Afterwards, I had to go and like read the Wikipedia, just be like, wait, did I like understand that right? You know, and it was just like if it was like still shitty, but at least maybe was a little more exciting or a little more batshit insane. I easily could have bunked it up 4 or 5 territory, but as is, I feel like 3.5 is a good range for it.
no, that about sums it up. That's Ring Zero. Unfortunately, another horror franchise which so far, and again, just referring to the Japanese ones in this, the original good, sequels not remotely,
Yeah,
really. So yeah, that's that. So this has been Screams After Midnight, and that was Ring Zero.
yeah.
And of course, remember you can get the wonderful drawing that Tim done for the movie at the end as the music plays on the video, of course. On the audio, you're just going to have to go hunt for it. But Tim, where can people find yourself?
Yeah, I feel like it's so much harder to plug stuff when it's like a shitty movie. uh, but yeah, if you want to try to cheer me up, reach out to me any social media platforms at Tim Vargulish, and you can check out my comic book stuff at facebook.com/goatmancomics.
I like how you try to dress that up with the platform. But I'm look, if you would like to communicate with me on a one-to-one basis, you can find me on social media platforms such as social networking site Facebook. Nah, you can find me on social media at Wibble89, and you can also, of course, find me and occasionally Tim on a bunch of other stuff here on the network. We do a DC Comics podcast called Comics from the Multiverse. Every weekend we talk about the week's DC Comics. We do a regular movie thing called 1.21 Gigawatts, which is all the non-horror variety. And we do TV reviews on Almost Cancelled, so you can check out that stuff if you want to. Although, no pressure. But let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments below on YouTube, or you can tweet at us at mailed_fuzz. Email us mailedfuzz@gmail.com. You can also send us suggestions for movies if you want. That's all cool too. That's plugging all of our stuff and communication. But you can, of course, go and see our friends over at runsreviews.com. They do written content. They often review some of the same movies we do. I don't foresee them doing Ring Zero anytime soon. That's maybe a little bit too old and obscure for their weekly movie column. But so they have that, but they also do a lot of concert stuff and a lot of like album reviews and the other thing that pops up. So check them out. But no, that's the show, guys. Screams After Midnight. We're deep into the mid 50s. In fact, maybe even the late 50s now in terms of episode numbers.
Oh, wowza.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be going up quite quickly now that we're doing 2 a week.
It's true.
That is very true. So, oh god, what are we going to do when we get to 100? We have to do something special.
Yeah, is there a... We'll have to find a movie that has like 100th. You know what we should do? We should try to do like the 100th adaptation of Dracula. Where that is.
Or maybe we could try and review 100 movies. Nah, that's
In 100 minutes.
in 100 minutes. Just spitfiring it really quickly.
Yeah.
But no, that's this week's Screams After Midnight, guys. Thanks as always for watching or listening. It means a lot to us that people enjoy the show. It actually does.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Whenever I get a nice bit of feedback, I really like it, and we don't take it for granted. So, so yeah, Screams After Midnight, Ring Zero, end of the show. I'm wrapping up now. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.